Tayy, also known as Ayyi, is a large and ancient Arab tribe, whose descendants continue to live throughout the Middle Eastern states of the Arab world. The nisba of Tayy is at-Ṭayyī. The Tayy's origins trace back to the Qahtanites, and their original homeland was Yemen. In the 2nd century CE, they migrated to the northern Arabian mountain ranges of Jabal and Jabal Salma, where they became close allies of the Banu Assad tribe. The mountains, which became known as Jabal Tayy, thereafter served as the traditional homeland of the Tayy and its later sub-branches until the present day. They later established relations with the Sassanid Persian and Byzantine empires, which ruled Mesopotamia and Syria, respectively. While traditionally allied with the Sassanids' Lakhmid clans, in the first decade of the 7th century, the Tayy supplanted the Lakhmids as the provincial rulers of Al-Hira on behalf of the Persians. In the late 6th century, the intra-tribal Fasad War split the Tayy, with members of its Al-Jadila branch converting to Christianity and migrating to Syria, where they became allied with the Ghassanids, and the Al-Ghath branch remaining in Jabal Tayy. A chieftain of the Al-Ghath, Hatim at-Tayy, emerged during this time as a poet widely known among Arabs until today for his generosity. Hatim's son Adi, and another leading Tayy tribesman, Zayd al-Qahtani, converted to Islam together with much of the tribes in 629 to 630, and became companions of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. The Tayy participated in numerous Muslim military campaigns after Muhammad's death, particularly during the Ridda Wars against pagan Arab tribes and the Muslim conquest of Persia. The Al-Jadila in northern Syria remained Christians until shortly after the Muslim conquest of the region in 638. The Tayy was split during the First Fitna, with those based in Arabia and Iraq supporting Ali as caliph and those in Syria supporting Muawiyah. The latter and his Umayyad kinsmen ultimately triumphed, and members of the Tayy participated in the Umayyad conquest of Sind in the early 8th century. Nonetheless, a branch of the Tayy under Qutb ibn Shabib were among the leaders of the Abbasid revolution, which toppled the Umayyads in the mid-8th century. The Tayy fared well under the Abbasid Caliphate, producing military officials and renowned poets, such as Berturi and Abu Tamim. By the mid-9th century, Abbasid authority had eroded and the Tayy were left dominant in the southern Syrian desert and Jabal Tayy. Under the Jarrahid chieftains, they established themselves in Palestine under Fatimid rule. The virtually independent rulers of the area between Al-Ramla and Jabal Tayy. They controlled the key routes between Egypt, Syria, Arabia and Iraq. They vacillated between the Fatimids and the Byzantines, and then between the Seljuks and Crusaders until the late 12th and early 13th centuries, when the Tayy's various sub-branches, chief among them the Al-Fadl, were left as the last politically influential Arab tribe in the region, extending from Najd northward to Upper Mesopotamia. Genealogy. The Tayy's progenitor, according to early Arab genealogists, was Juluma ibn Udad, who was known as Tayy or Tayyi. The theory in some Arab tradition, as cited by 9th-century Muslim historian al-Tabari, holds that Juluma's laqab of Ayyi derived from the word Tawwa, which in Arabic means to plaster. He received the name because he was said to have been the first to have plastered the walls of a well, according to al-Tabari. Juluma's ancestry was traced to Qarn ibn Saba ibn Urub, great-grandson of Qartin, the semi-legendary, common ancestor of the Arab tribes of southern Arabia. Juluma was a direct descendant of Qarn via Juluma's father Zayd ibn Yashjub, who in turn was a direct descendant of Aib ibn Zayd ibn Qarn. The two main branches of Tayy were al-Algarth and al-Jadiyah. The former was named after Algarth, a son of Juluma. The immediate offspring of Algarth's son, Amra, were Tha'al, Aswadan, Hani, Bolan and Salaman. The offspring of Tha'al and Aswadan became leading sub-branches of the Tayy in northern Arabia, while the offspring of Hani became a major sub-branch in southern Mesopotamia. According to traditional Arab genealogists, the Banu Tha'al were the ancestors of the Banu Rabba of Syria and in turn of the Al-Fadl emirs. The Al-Jadilah's namesake was a woman of the Tayy named Jadilah, whose sons Hur and Jundub became the progenitors of Banu Hur and Banu Jundub, respectively. The latter produced the numerous Al-Thalib sub-branch, which itself produced the Banu Lam, which became a leading sub-branch of Al-Jadilah in northern Arabia. The Jam may have also been a branch of the Al-Thalib. According to the 14th-century Arab historian and sociologist Ibn Khaldun, the Tayy were among those Qahthanite tribes who lived in the hills and plains of Syria and Mesopotamia and intermarried with non-Arabs. Ibn Khaldun further stated that Tayy tribesmen did not pay any attention to preserving the lineage of their families and groups. Thus, the lineage of the Tayy's many sub-branches was difficult for genealogists to accurately ascertain. Pre-Islamic era. Migration to Jabal Tayy. The Banu Tayy were originally based in Yemen, but migrated to northern Arabia in the late 2nd century CE. In the years following the dispersion of the Banu Assad from Yemen, they largely lived among the North Arabian mountain ranges of Jabal Ajr and Jabal Salma, and from there they would make incursions into Syria and Mesopotamia during times of drought. Their concentration in Jabal Ajr and Jabal Salma lent the mountain ranges their ancient collective name, Jabal Tayy. Prior to the Tayy migration, the mountains had been the home of the Banu Assad, who lost some territory with the arrival of Tayy tribesmen. However, the two tribes ultimately became allies in later centuries and intermarried. In ancient times, the two main branches of the Tayy were the Al-Algarth and Al-Jadilah. The tribesmen lived in different parts of the region, with those living among the mountains known as the Al-Jabaliyan, those on the plain known as As-Sahiliyan, and those on the desert sands known as Al-Ramliyan. Relations with Sassanids and Byzantines. 5th century. The Tayy were so widespread and influential throughout the Syrian desert that Syriac authors from Mesopotamia used the name Tayyanos, Tayyanoi, Tayyiऽ, or Tayyiऽ to describe nomadic Arab tribesmen in general in much the same way Saracenos was often used by authors from Byzantine Syria and Egypt as a generic term for Arabs. For the Tayy specifically, the Syriac authors would use the word Tu'i. The Tayy were subjects of the Sassanid Persians. However, they were also counted as allies by the Byzantines' chief Arab foederati in the early to mid-5th century, the Salayids. The Tayy were mentioned in the late 5th century as having raided numerous villages in the plains and mountains of the Syrian desert, including parts of Byzantine territory. This prompted the Byzantine army to mobilize mobilize its Arab clients at the desert frontiers with Sassanid-held Mesopotamia to confront the Tayy. The Byzantines demanded restitution from the Tayy, but the Sassanid general Qahtanites instead opened negotiations that called for the Byzantines' Arab clients to restore livestock and captives taken from Sassanid territory in previous years in return for compensation from the Tayy. The negotiations succeeded, and moreover, the Sassanids and Byzantines delineated the borders to prevent future raiding between the respective Arab clients. However, to the embarrassment of the Sassanids and the outrage of the Byzantines, 400 Tayy tribesmen raided several minor villages in Byzantine territory while representatives of the two sides were meeting in Nisba. Despite this violation of the bilateral agreement, the Sassanid-Byzantine peace held. 6th century. Throughout the 6th century, the Tayy continued the relations with the Sassanids and the chief Arab clans, the Lakhmid of Mesopotamia. Towards the end of the 6th century, a Tayyid chief named Hassan assisted the Sassanid king Khosrau II when the latter fled from his usurper, Bahram Choban, by giving Khosrau a horse. A few years later, the Lakhmid governor of Al-Hira al-Numan III fell out with Khosrau II, who had been restored to the Sassanid throne, and sought safety with the Tayy. The tribe refused to grant refuge to al-Numan, who was married to two Tayyid women, and he was ultimately killed by the Sassanids in 602. A Tayyid chief, Iyaz ibn Qabiza al-Tayyi, subsequently migrated to Al-Hira with some of his tribesmen and became its governor, ruling from 602 to 611 CE. The Banu Bakr ibn Wail tribe opposed the rule of Iyaz and began raiding Sassanid territory in southern Mesopotamia. In response, Iyaz commanded pro-Sassanid Arab and Persian troops against the Banu Bakr at the Battle of Tayyiyyar in 609, in which the Sassanids were defeated. According to historian Irfan Shahid, evidence suggests clans of the Tayy moved into Byzantine-held Syria beginning in the 6th century. By then, the Ghassanids had largely supplanted the Salayids as the Byzantines' main foederati, and the Salayids began living alongside the Tayy in the region of Kufa. In the late 6th century, the Al-Algarth and Al-Jadila fought against each other in the 25-year-long Fasad War in northern Arabia. Numerous atrocities were committed by both factions, and the war resulted in the migration of several Al-Jadila clans from the North Arabian plains to Syria, while the Al-Algarth remained in Jabal and Jabal Salma. The Jadila tribesmen founded a hadir near Qanasrin called Hadir Tayyi after the tribe. The Ghassanid king Al-Harith ibn Jabal brokered a peace between the Tayy factions, ending the Fasad War. Afterward, the Tayy's relations with the Ghassanids, which had previously been checkered, were much improved. The Al-Jadila converted to Christianity, the religion adopted decades earlier by the Ghassanids. Some other clans of the Banu Tayy remain pagan, worshipping the deities of Ruda and Alphils. Those who converted to Christianity apparently embraced the new faith zealously and produced two well-known priests, named in Syriac sources as Abraham and Daniel. Sometime during the 6th century, the Tayy and the Assad formed a confederation, which was later joined by the Banu Ghatafan as well. The alliance collapsed when Assad and Ghatafan assaulted both the Al-Algarth and Al-Jadila and drove them out of the territories in Jabal Tayy. However, one of the leaders of the Assad, al-Qimarain Awf al-Jad army defected from the Ghatafan soon after and re-established the alliance with the Tayy. Together, they campaigned against Ghatafan and restored the territories in Jabal Tayy.